More Than Face fam, my name is Sierra. I'm a licensed barber out of Oklahoma City, and I drop content to help us barbers grow in our careers. And in today's video, it'll be a continuation on our haircut series. We'll be talking all about tapers, so let's get into it. Taper fades are an extremely important haircut. It's probably only second to your bald fades. So these are a very popular haircut, especially for people who have curly, coarse, or kinky hair textures. So the very first thing that makes taper fades different from other haircuts is that they are technically 3 haircuts in one. So tapers, unlike bald fades, are disconnected. You technically have a fade in the back of the nape of the neck, a fade on the left side of the head, and a fade on the right side of the head. So with your tapers, you'll be doing essentially 3 separate bald fades. Now, a traditional bald fade goes from ear to ear all the way around the head, but with the taper, the area right behind the ear is going to be pretty much untouched. So you should still be able to line up behind the ear in a way that you will not be able to line up the back of the neck or the very bottom of your front fades. So when it comes to your tapers, you really need to be paying attention to the shape of your client's head. Unlike with bald fades, from my experience, I think that a lot of people can pull off a bald fade and less people can pull off a taper. So you really need to be paying attention to head shape, because unlike with a bald fade, the taper actual fades can be so small that it can make someone's head look disproportionate. So really pay attention to that. That's kind of a side note, but pay attention to head shapes because it doesn't suit everybody, especially if you're going to be blending into a lot of hair. It can make some people look heavy or like you can't really see all of their face. I don't really know how to describe that well, but just pay attention to head shape because tapers can make some people look off. Now, tapers are usually completely bald at the base. And when I'm saying tapers, I'm talking about the entire haircut, not the isolated sections. All the isolated sections together equal one taper haircut. It's not like taper, taper, taper. I hope that kind of makes some sense. So you really want to be setting in proper guidelines. Now, just like in our last video where we talked about our bald fades, which if you have not seen that breakdown, go ahead and click it in the cards above so you guys can watch that after this, because it's a really thorough breakdown if you're kind of confused on the steps of a bald fade or what you should be looking for in a bald fade. So when it comes to the actual taper, the guidelines for it are different than the guidelines of that for a bald fade. So bald fades usually are low, mid, or high. But for a taper, usually they're just low or high. Now, that's not to say you can't do a mid. It's just that most people will never request a mid taper, and you will probably very rarely do them if at all. That's because there's not a significant difference between a low taper and a mid taper and a mid taper and a high taper. Tapers in the front are done in such a small space, it's like, I don't know, maybe 3 inches, maybe 2.5 inches, that really the only transitions that you're going to see that look significantly different are just a mid or a high. Excuse me, I said that so wrong, my bad. Are just a low and a high. That is because in a space this small, you can't really tell the difference between a line starting here and a line starting here. But you can tell the difference between a line starting here and one starting up here. If you guys are enjoying the video this far, go ahead and comment down below if you have started doing tapers. I want to see how far along in your barber journeys you guys are. I'll be down there to see your answers. And don't forget to go ahead and subscribe and like this video. We drop content like this every single week, and we really want to grow with you guys. So with that all being said, let's get back to the video. Now, the starting points for a low or a high taper depend on your C-cup. Now, if you don't know what your C-cup is, it is this little C shape that occurs right here between your temple and your ear, and it more or less acts as a reference point or a landmark, as we talked about in our bald fade video, so that you can make your guidelines look clean and consistent all the time with all of your clients. So if you don't cut any of your C-cup off and you literally make a straight line right here at the top of the ear, that is a low taper. And if you decide you want to do a high taper, you cut the C-cup completely off at a diagonal going from the top of the ear to the base of your handlebar, or the lines that go down on your lineup. Now, when it comes to these guidelines, they don't have to always be straight. I'm always going to tell you guys to approach your haircuts with very traditional guideline shapes because it's easier to understand in the beginning. Traditional guideline shapes are always going to be straight across. But As you learn more about your client's head shapes, as you try out different ways to approach your haircuts, you'll be playing more with curved shapes. Tapers are usually done with burst shapes. I'm not trying to confuse you guys when I'm saying these different terms. I just want you to know that there are different options as you get better. So a burst is a more circular or rounded out fade. It is ideal for small spaces that you're having to do a fade in. So mohawks are awkward, so usually they're done with a burst. And usually a lot of tapers are done with a burst shape as well, because it's a tight and awkward space to be fading, and sometimes a straight line isn't the most fitting for maybe your client's head shape. So doing a burst could be easier. So you can literally just round it out, do a small hook shape or a small curve shape. Some people even do a little pie slice and then fade out from there. As you get better, you can try these different methods, but usually you'll be doing a small curve in your front, on the left and on the right, and then you'll see in the back, especially if you watch a lot of taper tutorials, people setting in their nape of the neck guideline with an upside down smiley face or a frown. That too is just to kind of give a better shape to your tapers, or to add some variety or a little bit of flair, personal style to your taper, kind of like a barber's kiss on it. Now, when it comes to your tapers, you will be doing this on multiple hair textures. You'll be doing this on multiple age groups. So it's key that when you get the opportunity to do a taper, especially if you're in the very beginning stages, that you don't run from that. I know that tapers can be intimidating because of the small space, because you're having to blend into usually a lot more hair on top. But you can't run from these types of haircuts because you're going to see them so much. The sooner you deep dive into this, the better you'll know how to swim. It's one of those situations. So don't avoid your tapers, go for them, because you'll have waves that require a taper. You'll have someone that has a man bun that requires a taper. You'll get an Edgar cut when you have to do a taper. So really, really, really go for tapers and do not run from them. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys and that you got something really good out of it. I really am trying to make sure that I'm talking about all the things that I struggled with personally. It took me for a couple of these haircuts, maybe only a few weeks to understand. But for some of the other ones that we'll be breaking down, it took me a few months. About fades are fairly quick. My tapers were and we'll be talking about gentleman's cut and shadow cuts in the next couple of videos as well. So look forward to those. But those two pose some problems for me, and I'm just trying to give you guys a shortcut so you can avoid some of the hiccups and hurdles I had to jump over. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Peace out.